Hi, in this lesson I want to talk about the goals for your partner network, how to define them and why is this important. So you are representing a company and this company can have goals of its own. They can try to get more customers, they can want to lower their customer acquisition cost, becoming more visible, lowering the platform costs or just improving the product in general. And you are part of the partnership team, which will be working with external companies who have goals of their own. And these goals, again, can be anything from increasing profitability, expanding their brand awareness, educating their industry. There's a lot of different goals that they might have. And these goals typically relate to the strategy that a company has. Now, with this strategy, the problem is that it changes in time and you will be working on certain assumptions. So in order to make sure that you are actually beneficial to both your company and the partner's company, you need to make sure that you have set common goals that you can both work together. And to do this, what you need to do is, first of all, you need to identify what your goals are. And we'll be talking about this later in a moment. But you also need to ask your partners what their goals are. Maybe there are some KPIs which your partner needs to meet. Maybe there's a new strategy that the company is trying to implement. And you should be aware of this. So you should take time to actually understand what's driving your partner company and what are the goals that they are trying to achieve. And when you will do this exercise, you will figure out that there are certain elements, certain goals that you have in common and that you can both work towards by enhancing both companies and using both companies' resources to enhance them. This can be anything from getting new customers to educating the industry, becoming more visible, generating more leads, expanding the brand awareness, and a lot of other areas. Now, in order to do this, you need to first identify your own goals. You also need to ask your partners what their goals might be and what their KPIs are. But let's start with the fact of what your goals as a company can be and should be, especially in terms of partnerships. So there is a general assumption that partnerships, the main goal in partnerships is to generate sales. And while it's true, while this can be true, it's not really always the case. I mean, yes, the generating more leads is generally the biggest driver in partnerships, but it's not necessarily the only goal, and sometimes it's not even the most important goal. I've talked to companies who even claim that they don't necessarily have to pay commissions, that they don't necessarily have to do anything to incentivize the lead sharing or customer acquisition, but they actually want to focus more on other areas. And to give you a few examples of this, I want to show you this slide where you can see that the goals can be very different and can actually relate to different areas of where your company operates. So they could be sales driven, such as increasing the number of leads, getting after new verticals, diversifying their income streams, or lowering the customer acquisition costs. But they can also be product driven, which means that they will be able to, for example, enhance your product by adding something that your partner is offering that you are not offering at the moment. Your partners could help you localize the product or sell the services in a certain local market where you are not able to do it yourself because there is a language barrier or there is just a barrier in terms of whether you have an office there. You could also be increasing customer loyalty. This is a very important element of partnerships. If you and the partner have a common customer and they are using both of your platforms, it's much more difficult for them to churn and to stop using it because all the three companies are somewhat connected. You also can have marketing goals. So you could work with the partner to expand to new markets. You could work with them on new marketing tactics. You could work together to educate the market or just to increase the brand's reputation. And this can be done, again, in many forms by either PR marketing or just by showcasing that you are working with a company that's visible in a certain area, in a certain industry. Finally, another goal in partnerships can be to improve the operations. And you can, for example, ask your partners to provide you additional feedback from clients. You could get additional market insights. You could improve customer support by giving the L1 support to the partners and basically them becoming the face of the operation. You can also decrease the technical cost or your technical team's cost by allowing your partners to, for example, onboard, set up, and help the customers. So as you see, there are many different areas and many different goals that you can have. And most of them, or a lot of them, are not related to specifically sales. And now what you need to do is you need to stop for a moment and ask yourself the question of what are the goals that you are after. And a good question that you should ask yourself, and a task that you should do, hopefully right now, is to define the main goal for your partnership. Just make sure to pick one, define that this is the main goal, of this is our driver, this is what we want to focus on. Additionally, choose 2 to 3 secondary goals which also fit your focus, to fit to what you're trying to achieve. And as a best practice, you can also define at least one that you will be not targeting, that you will be not be focusing on. And why do you need to do this exercise? The reason for this is twofold. First of all, you will be able to have clarity in terms of what you're trying to achieve with the partnerships. And then when you will be talking to the partner, you will also be able to figure out which ones are common. And second thing is that you will be able to then ask yourself this question, whether a certain action that you are doing with the partners actually fits the goals that you have for your partnerships. So imagine, for example, that your goal is to generate sales, and your partner is coming to you and they're proposing a hackathon, that they want to build something together where they will promote the brand together, but it will be promoted to developers. Well, this is completely not in your scope of interest. This is not something that you are after. You want to drive sales. You already have developers and you don't need any more product updates. You actually would prefer to get more sales than interest in terms of developers. So you know that solution, that activity will not fit your goals, and you are able to tell that to the partner and focus on areas that actually drive you towards the goals that you have set. Thank you.